Good morning, South Africa, and welcome to True State of the Nation, where we take an honest look at what is happening in our country. In the heart of South Africa's largest city, the devastating inferno recently swept through the Johannesburg Central Business District, leaving behind a path of destruction and profound sorrow. Tragically, this catastrophe claimed the lives of at least 76 individuals, including 12 children, and has inflicted injuries upon more than 50 others. The fire erupted within a 5-story illegal housing facility in the city, marking the deadliest disaster the nation has witnessed since the Colebrook mine tragedy in January 1960, and surpassing even the Sharpeville massacre, which claimed 69 lives. Such a colossal loss of life demands our unwavering attention and introspection. As a nation, we must earnestly examine the factors that led to this disaster and proactively address them to prevent this from recurring. But as is their habit, the ANC has already attempted to shift the blame for these deaths to their default scapegoat, apartheid.
Because unfortunately for us, whether we like it or not, this is the result of apartheid that kept people under such conditions, and we are expected to have changed those conditions within the 30 years.
While the legacy of apartheid continues to cast a shadow over our country, we must question whether it is fair to attribute these deaths solely to that dark chapter in our history. Assigning blame to the past for all our present-day problems is a simplistic approach that does not serve the country at all. For all the good it does, we may as well claim that all our problems are a result of Eve eating the apple. So how did this tragedy unfold? The once thriving Johannesburg CBD has over the past 3 decades transformed into a no-go area, plagued by crime and violence. Businesses and wealthy residents have moved away, and in the absence of the ANC addressing the country's housing crisis, criminals have seized the opportunity. Regrettably, the police, under the ANC leadership, have made little effort to combat crime in the city, fostering an environment where gangs and criminal syndicates operate with impunity. Abandoned buildings have been hijacked by criminal syndicates, who rent out living spaces in these structures. But the situation in the Johannesburg city centre is dire, with many buildings deemed unsuitable for habitation. Yet families continue to endure these hazardous conditions, residing in overcrowded spaces without access to running water, proper sanitation, or legal electricity connections. This disastrous situation has always been a ticking time bomb, and both the government and the police have been well aware of it, but have failed to take effective action. The ANC in particular has until now turned a blind eye to the hijacking of buildings. Blaming apartheid now, after 3 decades of ANC rule, is nothing more than a diversion from their own responsibilities. The ANC has held power for 30 years, and they must take accountability for their failures, rather than continuing to attribute them to the past. The ANC are incapable of taking responsibility. Instead, they childishly blame others for their failures, a clear sign that they are not fit to govern.
And we have said that when it comes to the capacity of the state, in many, many ways, there is lack of capacity. And the lack of capacity is even more manifested at the local government level, where, for instance, you don't have well-qualified CFOs, you don't have well-qualified engineers, you don't have well-qualified town planners. Apartheid robbed us of having a plethora of town planners in the education system. So that is partly the shadow of apartheid that I talk about.
It's not this government. I think we also have our own blame to take, maybe. But it is the commission by de Villiers in 1986 that was appointed by the apartheid government to check, to investigate as to whether it was correct for them to continue investing on rail. And that de Villiers commission said to apartheid government, no, it is not necessary. At the time, the apartheid government was spending something like 6 billion rand for rail. From there, the apartheid government stopped investing to the extent that by 90s, apartheid government was spending less than R1 billion on any rail infrastructure. Coupled with that lack of investment, the apartheid government decided to deregulate the transportation of anything on the road, including the transportation of passengers, the transportation of goods, which led to the mushrooming of the trucks that we see on the road destroying our roads, and actually the devastation of trains and rail services.
Is it apartheid's fault that we are back to stage 6 load shedding today? Or that the murder rate is exponentially higher now than it was before 1994? According to the ANC, it is. Everything is apartheid's fault. But how did apartheid cause Transnet to fail when the rail system was working before the ANC took power? Or how did apartheid destroy Denel and SAA? These are the ANC's failures. If you go to a doctor and they misdiagnose you and they treat you for the wrong condition, you won't get better. And the same applies to healing our nation. South Africa is very sick, and if we continue to misdiagnose the cause, the country will die. This tragedy must make us realize that it's time to hold those in power to account and to stop blaming everything on the past. But let me know in the comments what you think, and please like and subscribe, and let's get South Africa talking.